Every kid has a great story to tell. Have one? Well, we're listening. Send your best story to the New Indian Express's Bookworm Junior Summer Stories Contest, and you could just end up becoming an author over the summer. What are you waiting for? Get writing.
Hindustan Institute of Technology and Science. Take your first step toward a future in excellence.
Hi there and welcome. This is the New Indian Express's Let's Debate. It's an inter-school debate competition that we're doing virtually because, well, you know how things are outside and you know how things are inside. And we're super excited to have students from all across the geographic spectrum. And we're very, very excited to have them talk about something that I know has irritated a great number of students and has also enthused a great number of students. That's right, today's topic is one that will make you smile, it will make you think. And we hope that you'll take something away from it as well. We're saying that this is India's biggest virtual inter-school debate competition because nobody has attempted it so far, especially after the pandemic. So we're very happily saying that, and we hope that you agree with us. Let me introduce the motion for the day. Tuition, NEET/JEE classes should be restricted only to the weekends. We initially started with saying this tuition, but then we realized that one of the things that adds to the burden of a tuition class is NEET and JEE coaching that I believe people are starting in the 6th standard now. That's, for me, it's a horrific thought, but to each their own. Well, that's what our house is going to be debating today, and we have speakers both for and against the motion, and we're absolutely waiting to hear from them. But before that, let me very quickly introduce our judges for the evening. Our judges, of course, joining us is Mrs. Jyoti Swarup. Mrs. Jyoti Swarup brings with her a wealth of experience, and by wealth I can quantify it by saying 45 plus years. She's a teacher to the teachers. She's a 21st century skills trainer. She's worked as a teacher. She's trained hundreds of teachers over the years, and I believe her workshops are a great lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining us, Mrs. Swarup. And I'd also like to welcome from within the New Indian Express family, I'd like to welcome Mr. Kannan Venu, who is our Deputy News Editor. He's based in Kerala. He has more than 15 years of experience as a journalist, and he worked as a sports reporter initially. So lots of great sports stories there. He also did business journalism. He's worked with a host of national dailies before he finally settled with us. And I'm so glad to welcome him to come and judge this debate for us. Thank you so much, Mr. Venu.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, so let's get started. You guys know what the motion is and you know which side of the line you're on. And with that, let me invite our first speaker, Manya Chaturvedi, to speak for the motion. Manya, if you're ready, take it away.
I'm Manya Chaturvedi, and today I'll be speaking for the motion. In 2016, NSSO carried out a survey which showed that over 7.1 crore students in our country go to some kind of tuition, coaching, or after-school educational classes. Undoubtedly, this has increased over the years, including in the pandemic, where students find themselves needing more educational resources than ever. Every year, the amount of students who go to these classes are increased, and there is no doubt, even if there are advantages and disadvantages to these classes, that this trend is here to stay. However, the motion which I will be defending today is that these classes, such as coaching, JEE, and NEET classes, should be held on the weekends. Now, students already go to school on the weekdays. If they go to coaching, this causes such an overload of work that this leads to so much stress and exhaustion-related issues, which can not only harm the physical but also the long-term mental health of the students. It makes them so tired that they're not able to absorb the information properly after entire days of learning and studying. They're not able to find any time to pursue after school extracurricular activities, which are so crucial, not just for development, but also for college applications and overall well rounded character development. They find it harder to catch up with homework and school projects, especially in grades such as 11th and 12th, where the workload which is given to students increases exponentially. Classes on weekends will help them distribute their workload more evenly and will ensure that they do not have such high stress levels and such high workload levels. After all, the students who are going to these classes are 15 to 16, even 17-year-olds who are not fully equipped or developed to deal with such high amounts of workload yet. Now, schools also have to ensure that each student is able to understand and absorb what is being taught in school today. But the average class size in India is 35 to 40 students, and with period size ranging from 35 minutes to 50 minutes, teachers, even if teachers have the ability to give attention to each and every student, they don't often have the time to do it. Due to this, teachers tend to focus on students who need more help or who are not able to focus in class. Now, students who are studying both in the days during school and then after that they go to after school coaching, they'll obviously be tired and not be able to process everything that is happening in class. If teachers keep on giving the attention to these students, this hinders the overall growth of the students. Or more often than not, coaching classes often tend to give extra syllabus to students. They have extra work to do, tests to study for, and they have more syllabus to study, especially if they're getting JEE or NEET. Even if the teacher is not paying special attention to them, it is clear that they will hinder behind them somewhere because they're unable to coach, unable to keep up with the complete workload given in class. So if the teacher gives them too much attention, it will take away from the overall development of the class. If they don't get attention, this can lead to problems in understanding the concept, not just in your entrance exam, but also in boards or internal exams. This is a catch-22 situation where neither the teachers nor the students can come out in a way where everyone has understood and absorbed the concept. Lastly, I would like to highlight how, as competition increases, it is more and more necessary for students to take coaching classes. In fact, everyone who gives JEE and NEET, 99% of the students have admitted that they have taken some kind of outside help. In poorer states or in low middle class families, students also have to do this in order to be on par with their richer contemporaries. However, the high cost of these classes often take away from the financial situation in the family. But if students are so exhausted that they're not able to pay attention or absorb the concept, this is not just harmful for the students but also for the financial situation of the family. So before I conclude my argument, I would like to summarize my point. First, it is too much of a burden on students, both stress-wise, fatigue-wise, and has bad long-term effects on the students. Secondly, this is bad for both students and teachers because this hinders the overall development of the class and the students, with no one being able to get the amount of time and attention they need to understand concepts that are taught in class. And lastly, this is bad for the financial development and background of the family of the students who are taking this class. With this, I would like to conclude my argument and say that I am proud to support this. Thank you.
Perfectly on the clock. Thank you so much, Manya. And now to tell us why these classes should not be restricted only to the weekends, let me invite Ashutosh Kar to speak against the motion.
Consistency might not last, but discipline will last forever. And if practiced every day, discipline makes us consistent. A pleasant evening. I am Ashutosh Kar here to speak against the motion from the JEE School. To substantiate the sentence I began with, let me give you an example. It's not extremely difficult to make a great body. Rather, it's more challenging to wake up every morning and go to the gym. So if we muster up the courage and are disciplined enough to walk into our preparation rooms every single day, we may not be fully efficient, but if we are consistently attending classes every day, then our efficiency will increase from 1%, 2%, and then 100, and God knows if it may increase beyond what we dreamt of. There are several positive aspects of classes throughout the weeks. There is no question in my mind that efforts put over an entire week can't just be compared to efforts on 2 days. This mode is more preferable because it is usual of school teachers to hand out assignments on Friday as they assume the student would be free on the weekend, and this might interfere with your preparations. If you attend tuition throughout the week, you will have the weekend by yourself to revise concepts and attempt or analyze mock tests, ensuring a smooth schedule for studies. Another significant plus point for students attending weekday classes is that they never lag behind in their course. Restricting classes to just Saturday and Sunday may hamper and constrict the space and scope for learning for aspiring scholars. Given the limited teaching hours, the faculty may skip a few concepts and leave them to the goodwill of children to cover personally. This may raise doubts and disable clarity. Coming to doubts, I have a few questions. How long are we supposed to remember our doubts? How much can we remember till the weekend arrives? How many questions can a faculty answer at a time? Worthy questions, right? Kids coming with doubts accumulated over the entire week and the faculty having max, say, 2 or 3 hours to clear them up. Along with simplifying the chapters taught, an efficient teacher would also face problems. A survey in the Times of India said that almost 88% of the teachers in India are not by choice but by force. To this, add the limited time that they are given, and one can easily guess the ramifications. Since the faculty teach on just 2 days, long duration of weekend sessions becomes unavoidable. It definitely commands a great deal of patience to sit throughout the day listening to lectures. Gradually, the enthusiasm to understand and study wears out, reducing the grasping powers in the final periods. So, sitting many hours altogether, which is inevitable if classes are to be restricted to Saturday and Sunday, is not feasible, in my opinion. Now, Saturday and Sunday. I believe Saturday night must be a delight because Sunday is a holiday. Who doesn't believe that a student's refresh button is activated on the weekends? Don't deactivate it through weekend classes. So besides there being numerous pros of the classes throughout the weeks, it's the most integral issue, in my opinion, remains the fact that all the students should opt for whichever style they prefer. So the choice of selecting either way should be given to the learners themselves. If they are compatible with the regular timetable of classes, who are we to disregard the choice of whom these institutions support? Classes every day allow relaxation on weekends, enables constancy of purpose, better doubt clearance, ample time, and therefore I believe that restricting tuitions and coaching classes to the weekend will do more harm than good. With this, I sign off. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think the question that we all have to ask ourselves is, honestly, how much choice does the learner today have? Well, that's a question that we will probably answer during the course of this debate. Could I now invite to speak for the motion, Gayatri Rajesh?
The human brain is an amazing thing. It works 24 hours a day from the time we were born and only stops when we take an exam. Good evening, respected members of the jury, my worthy opponents, and the enthusiastic gathering on this virtual platform. I'm Gayatri Rajesh of Class 8, here to present my views for the motion. Coaching classes should be restricted only to the weekends. Firstly, students attend coaching classes early in the morning or after school hours. This trend makes them tired, sleepy, and distracted in school. In addition to the homework given in school, students also have to finish homework given to them at the coaching center. Now just imagine if the coaching classes are kept on weekdays, how hectic and stressful it is for the child. He has to come from school, immediately go for coaching class, then come back and start doing the homeworks. In short, he doesn't have any free time and he has to keep his nose on the grindstone. Moreover, some kids fail to balance the parallel syllabus taught at school and coaching center. So it is recommended to keep coaching classes on weekends. Secondly, the way they teach is different. In schools, they follow a generic pattern, and in coaching centers, they have some other pattern for each student, and if both these clashes, it will be an utter failure. You will not be able to do good in school or in coaching classes. Thirdly, if coaching classes are restricted to weekends, during the weekdays, we can go for extracurricular activities. In this modern age, it is necessary unless you want to be called as a nerd or bookworm. It is not only that, it helps us to shape our personality, which is the most important thing these days. To recapitulate, I would like to say coaching classes should be restricted only to the weekends because 1. balance in academic life. 2. Different teaching patterns. 3. More time for extracurricular activity. Lastly, I conclude by saying coaching isn't therapy, it's product development with you as the product. Thank you.
That's a quote that I'm going to carry. You are the product, and coaching classes are just product development. All right, phenomenal. Could I now invite Rithwik to speak for the...
My distinguished jury, my dear friends and my worthy opponents, today I, Rithwik, am before you to speak for the motion. That is, tuition, NEET, JEE coaching classes should be restricted to weekends. Before I proceed any further, I'd like to quote a very famous Sanskrit shloka. Udaye savita rakto raktashmaye tatha sampatto cha vipatto cha mahatame karupata. Meaning, the sun looks alike while rising and setting. Great men too remain alike in both good and bad times. A 5,000-year-old shloka bears the testimony to the fact that one has to be like the sun, strong, disciplined, focused, and undeterred. The essentials for a person to be successful in life is what I just stated. Who doesn't work hard? A donkey works the hardest. It doesn't mean that working hard alone bears the fruits of success. One of the greatest gifts to mankind are these precious years of childhood, where a child is bursting with energy, filled with enthusiasm, and drive to excel. After 8 to 9 hours in the school, in what way can one justify by grabbing away those precious hours of daylight in tuition classes and coaching classes? Greta Thunberg challenged, how dare you, while speaking against global warming and the changing environment. Now I ask you, how dare you for plucking us away from our childhood and thrusting upon us the dead weights of fantastic careers and dreamy prospects? Wake up. We have a right to our childhood, to play in the sun, frolic, and study when it's time. As long as we are focused on what we want, sky is the limit. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rithwik. That was a very inspired sort of take on why you should keep it to the weekends. And I hope that you're getting, despite everything that's going on right now, I hope you're getting enough sun and time outside. It's a bit of a oxymoron with the pandemic. All right, could I now call upon Neha to speak against the motion?
Today I will be speaking about how tuition, IIT, NEET classes should not be restricted to the weekend. Because first of all, students choose to go to these tuition, IIT, and NEET classes. They have chosen to go to these classes for a reason. Maybe it's because they are having a hard time in school and they don't believe that the school is able to provide them this help. Or maybe it's because they're able to understand perfectly what's happening in school and would require some advanced lessons. Or perhaps they just want a different take on learning. And since they have chosen to go to these classes, isn't it right that they choose when they go to these classes? Because after all, these are students who are passionate about going to college and living a successful life. And they are so enthusiastic and energetic about learning that we shouldn't restrict them to the weekends, because learning is for every day, for every moment, in fact. And we need to give this passion and this energy a place to bloom. And what better way to do this than in these classes itself? We cannot restrict it to the weekends. And frequent classes increases, it helps and strengthens the teacher-student bond, and it inculcates discussion. It inculcates an environment that is comfortable for students to ask help and ask doubts. Students won't hesitate to voice their opinions, and discussion can clarify so many concepts. It increases understanding, it generates ideas, exposes mistakes and weaknesses so that students can work on these areas and gain confidence. And they can also polish their study skills. If these classes were only held on weekends, there'd be no continuity of the learning. It would be bad for the learning process and the student-teacher relationship. And the fact that it's restricted to the weekend gives out a signal that these classes are very separate from their school life. And this is not the case because, after all, it's a different take on what they're learning in school, whether it's advanced or for help. And when it's restricted to the weekends, they don't have a place to voice out their doubts and ask for help. And we may actually be harming the student by dialing down their passion and energy by just not giving them a place to voice out. And in the days where they aren't in on the weekdays, students will be forced to study by themselves, and studying by themselves and struggling through it can have a very harmful effect because, after all, there's only so much you can struggle through. And because the time they have with their teachers is very limited, there's a particular mindset that comes of place that all doubts they have to ask should be, in a sense, worth it. And this is not a right mindset, or it's not a very productive one, because who what do you consider a doubt to be worth it? Because, after all, this will actually provide a barrier between the student teacher relationship, as students become afraid or they don't think it's worth it to ask a particular doubt because they only have this limited time with their teachers. And in this way, we are technically restricting a student's learning, passion, and energy by forcing them to only have classes or go to classes on the weekends. After all, it should be their choice. They're the ones learning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deya. That was extremely well argued. Could I now call on Drishti Jitendra Mishra to present her arguments for the motion?
So personally, I have seen my friends suffer because of the weekday classes. They have to constantly keep working. First they go to school, then they come home, they don't even get rest, and they have to run off to the evening classes or whatever time their classes are. So one thing is, weekday classes really hamper your health. You don't get enough time to rest, you don't get enough meal, the 3 times. And if you try to rush through it, your stomach will really become upset. And your productivity is kind of trapped in a particular place because you have to just study, and there's nothing to relax for. And whereas for weekend classes, you can go and it keeps your weekend more productive because children tend to be like, oh my gosh, now it's weekend, now we're going to relax, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And then they push off everything to the last minute and it just goes on and on and on and on again. And if we go to the weekend classes, it keeps your weekday free. So you can revise your chapters and whatever is taught to you throughout the whole week, and you can manage your schoolwork, your tuition or classes or whatever it is. And during the weekdays, you can do some other thing, like you can go to some classes or you can revise over and over again. If you don't want to go anywhere, if you don't want to do anything else, you can just revise it over and over again and make your base firm. And basically, I guess weekend classes are the best. And many people say that weekend classes are really jammed up. People don't do clean out some classes clearing sessions so that if the child wants to clear the doubts, they can go to the doubt clearing session. And on the weekends, you don't have any other work, so you can relax, have your food, and then you can go and you can revise it. And on the weekday, you have to do everything at once. I've seen my friends, I'm asking them, what are you doing? They're saying, I'm doing homework. And you'll be fix me back. They're like, oh no, I have to do my tuition classes also. I've got to do my tuition's work also. And that thing is on weekend also. They are given tuition work on weekends as well, and the school work too. So it's basically the whole week they're just working like a stupid person. But on weekends, you can do it and you have a whole week to complete your homeworks and you manage your school work. And as I said, you can be more productive in your week. So that's it for I'll just put that as my.
Thank you so much, Drishti. So sacrifice the week and, well, you'll always have the weekends for those classes. All right. We had Samruddhi with us. She's having a lot of technical issues. Seema tells me she's desperately trying to join the meeting and sort of, present her point of view. I know she was very keen, but we don't have her with us yet. And so unfortunately, we'll have to move on. Seema, any luck with Samruddhi? I know Seema's also not. She's really...
Not yet.
Trying. All right. Let's see if we can get her in a little later. Anyway, I'd like to congratulate all of you guys. I thought those are some excellent opening statements. Though I am a little curious as to why nobody brought up how the paradigm of tuition and IIT and NEET classes have sort of evolved during the pandemic, because we all know how normal education has sort of transitioned to the online mode. Some of you may have gone back to school for a brief while before the second wave hit. But it's very interesting. I'd love to have your thoughts on that a little later. Meanwhile, let's quickly move on to our next round, which is the rebuttal round. Remember, everybody gets 2 minutes on the clock to make a rebuttal. You can rebut a point made by the opposition speaker. It can be one speaker, it can be multiple speakers, or you can use that time to talk about something the entire opposition talked about. It's entirely up to you, but you get 2 minutes to do that in. If you'd like to respond to something another speaker has said, well, you'll have to wait your turn, or you'll wait for everybody to finish and then you can get started on that rebuttal. All right? Everybody gets 2 minutes on the clock, and we're going to follow the same order that we came in. All right? And with that, let's get started with our rebuttals. Let me ask Manya, would you like to make a rebuttal?
So, first of all, I would like to congratulate everyone on their speeches and the points they have made. I would like to start ranking my rebuttals by opposing what Mr. Ashutosh said in his speech. He said that students are able to reach their optimum level of efficiency through constant revision and studying. But the fact is, if students are studying all the time, they burn themselves out. They're too tired. How are they going to reach that optimum level of efficiency? How are they going to reach their true potential if they are so burdened with work and constant studying up to 12, 14 hours a day that they have no energy to study more, to unlock their full potential, to study in not just a way which is studying from your books, but in approaching the subject in other ways, such as visually, audibly, and the applications of the subject in the real world. They don't have any time to think for themselves, to wonder what the subject actually means. They're just reading what they're taught in classes and what they read from their books. Sitting the whole day on weekends, you say, takes away from their time to study, to relax, and to self-study on weekends. But students do this on weekends, weekdays too. It takes away from the extracurricular time, their time for social interaction, which is so important for overall development. I would also like to rebut what Ms. Neha said. She said that students choose to go to tuitions and to coaching, and I believe that's a flawed premise. Maybe when the trend of such classes started, yes, students were choosing to go. But now when students go to these classes, it's to combat the pressure and the competition that they face in India in getting into any college or getting good grades in school. These students go to these classes so they have the chance of going to a decent college, not because they have a thirst for knowledge. Even students who have a firm understanding on their concepts take these classes, not because they want to further their concepts, but because in a place like India, where we have such a high population, where so many people are aiming for the same amount of seats in a college, or so many of them are aiming for the same score in their boards, most of them have an understanding of their concepts, or most of them are just as smart as you are. In India, we don't compete. We don't go to these classes because we want to have a firmer understanding of the subject. We go here because we have no choice to do so. So I would like to conclude by rebutting opposition at large by saying that students are sacrificing their time, energy, and their childhood, where, as Mr. Ritvik said in his speech, we are supposed to enjoy, we're supposed to develop ourselves. And weekday classes are just hindering themselves from doing so. Thank you.
As someone very famously said, life is what happened when we were running behind time. Thank you very much, Manya. Could I now ask Ashutosh? It's perhaps cathartic that Manya began her rebuttal by pulling out something that you said. So, Ashutosh, would you like to respond and continue with your rebuttal, please?
In response to Manya's argument that I meant we will read all the time through weekday classes, it is not appropriate. I always said that students' refresh button is there on the weekend and they can relax and enjoy their time. So it does not mean that we should read all the time. In her opening statement, she also talked about special attention of teachers to the students, and I believe that more attention of the teachers to the students will be possible if there are classes on the weekdays. Many of my opponents also talked about how tiring classes on all days can be. Well, I believe success comes at a cost. We have to work hard, and rather than thinking of these classes as exhausting, we should think of it as having a disciplined life. We can focus on the studies and not on how exasperating they can be. It was also surreal to see my opponents refer to classes after being a school being called cruels. Well, they are institutions with appropriate infrastructure and facilities. For example, as a coaching student myself, I feel very comfortable at my institute because there are provisions of AC in the summers and clean bathrooms and all. And relaxation is required on the weekends. Miss Drishti said that weekends can only be productive if there are classes on them. Well, we can self-study on the weekends, and also relaxation is important as it is integral too. Now, let me end my closing statement with a very important argument that I feel. We live in a democratic society where the freedom is one of the founding ideals on which the entire structure has been built. Though regulations are necessary for an orderly situation, I believe that in an already shrinking sphere of freedom in India, we can't encroach upon the students' or institutes' rights to choose class schedule according to their convenience. These tutorials can't just be arbitrarily restricted to the weekends, irrespective of whatsoever benefits have been cited by my worthy opponents. With this, I sign off. Thank you.
I think there's a very real economic concern as well. If you tell institutes that they can't work during the week, well, that's got its own ramifications off the top of my head, of course. All right, could I now ask Gayatri Rajesh, would you like to make a rebuttal?
I would like to ask Miss Neha. She said that learning every day is fun. I have a friend who goes for coaching classes every day. She behaves like an entrance zombie. By zombie, I mean beings who don't sleep, eat, drink, talk, or even smile. Aren't we training students to become entrance zombies by keeping classes every day? Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Gayatri. I'll have Neha respond to that in just a minute. Ritvik, would you like to do your rebuttal as well?
Having listened to my worthy and knowledgeable opponents and their valuable thoughts, I'd like to sum it up in this manner. First of all, I'd like to ask Neha. She had earlier said that children choose to do their coachings. So she can't talk just about herself. There are thousands and hundreds and thousands of lakhs of children who are not interested in these coachings or who don't want to go for these NEET, JEE and all this stuff. They want something else, but their parents have been forcing them. You can't say that they've chosen this. So tuitions, NEET, JEE coaching classes are very important as far as aiding a student to prepare for these competitive exams. So last year, for NEET examination, 13,66,945 children have appeared, from which 61,910 students were only selected. So what is the use? What is the use of these coachings? If the child is not interested, how much ever you coach him or how much ever you put him or tell him to study, it's of no use. So they help the coaching classes, they help the students to focus and get them oriented to their goals and cracking the examinations. That is for the children who are interested. Those who are not interested, it's of no use. However, but these days, extra tuitions and coaching classes have more so become a status symbol among parents and students alike. The parents start saying, "Oh, mera pados wala, they put their child in Akash, they put their child in Allen institution." That's one of the reasons why parents are like, "Oh my God, my pados is doing this, so I also have to do this." The spirit of coaching has been entirely killed as a result of this. Commercializing of education and social stigma has totally ruined it. Children have started cocooning themselves inside houses because they don't have time to play. They just need to study. There's nothing else in their mind because their parents have forced them, and after all, the children make a mindset that, no, I can't make my parents sad. I need to do something about it. So coaching is now a purely commercial venture rather than an aspect of grooming as it is intended to be. Therefore, It is now time for the society to wake up to their children and their beacons of hope for them to conquer their dreams. Every child is special and every child is unique and gifted. Not everyone is designed to be a topper or a doctor. One has to identify the spark, a part in every child as an individual, and nourish it and help them flourish it. Metamorphosis is real, and I believe it is more to do with the mind. So finally, I'd like to conclude that tuitions, NEET, JEE coaching classes today are inseparable for a student owing to the tremendous competition. However, it would be ideal to these classes on the weekends and thereby ensure that students have overall and holistic development and grooming. Thank you and Jai Hind.
You know, Ritvik, commonly status is measured by which school somebody studies in. But if I were to go with you, it is also a combination of which coaching center they go to. This is something that has to be explored. But thank you very much, Ritvik. That was very, very enlightening. Could I now call upon Neha Singrikonda to give us her rebuttal, please?
First of all, it is a choice to go to a tuition or to classes, whether it's the parents' choice or the children's choice. And perhaps students are only going to these classes because their parents have forced them to, or because they just want to get a seat at a well-ranked college, or maybe they just want to combat the pressure of school. But no matter what, they still have chosen to go to these classes, and the point of these classes is so that they can combat this pressure, and it's only through frequent classes that the teachers can actually understand the students and create a bond between them, that they can ward off this pressure. It is through frequent classes that people can actually understand the concepts, or perhaps gain more practice at it, so that they can, after all, gain a seat at a well-ranked college. Many people have also commented about how frequent classes will burn children out, but having classes on days that they may not want it to be would also do the same thing. After all, we cannot restrict when they want it. A personalized schedule is a much better option, and it's much more viable. Because after all, it is through a personalized schedule that people can actually ward off this pressure and feel like they have more control on their lives and their studies and learning in general. And that is how they learn.
All right. Thank you, Neha. I suppose that is how each one of us learns, but I think we've got a different process there. And finally, could I now ask Drishti, do you have a rebuttal for us?
First, I would come at Miss Neha because she said it is a choice of either the parent or the student. But I think when it comes to career, it should be the students' choice, not their parents. It's like the parents are pushing, like, you have to do this, you have to do this. Many times I have seen people who want to do something else, but they're pushed to do something else. So that automatically just drops the productivity level. And I know one friend whose older sister used to who was a volleyball player, but then she had to go for these coaching classes and they were during the week. So now she had to leave her everything she had to give her all her productivity up, and she was forced to go to these classes, which, knowing her, she would have preferred a weekend class so that she could have attended her volleyball sessions in the week and could have studied in the weekend. That's what I have to say. And Mr. Ashutosh said that success comes at a cost. So I guess you might have heard the quote, work smarter, not harder, because many people work so hard, but the other person works smarter and gains the success faster. So I guess weekend classes are a smarter option. You are studying as well as in the weekend you are having a productivity show. It's like everything at once.
Thank you so much, Drishti. That was on the clock. I must tell you though, to all of those saying that parents don't give kids the choice, it's probably because as a parent I can tell you that one of the fallacies of being a parent is that you think you know much better than your child, and you also are kicking yourself for the choices you made as a child, and which is why you don't want your child to make their own choices. But having said that, I'm a huge believer in being pro-choice. And I'm going to ask you guys, would anybody like to respond to anything anybody said?
I would like to.
All right, Neha, go ahead. 30 seconds.
Even if parents are forcing their children and children do not want to be part of these coaching sessions, it is through the teacher perhaps can understand the students' perspectives if the classes are on a more frequent basis. Because if the classes are only held on weekends, then the teachers won't be able to get to know the child and understand whether they actually really want to be part of their classes or not. Because after all, the teacher does need to know a little, and to know the children, they need frequent classes.
All right, that's an interesting point. Neha says, your teacher doesn't see you, they don't know you, and so the classes are absolutely ineffective. Does anybody else have anything to say?
This session has been made ambiguous, I believe, by involving arguments whether the parents and others force their children to attend these classes. Because I believe that is not the fault of weekday classes. If the parents force their children to adopt their style of education, then it's the parents' fault and not that weekday classes put pressure on the students.
Well, thank you so much, Ashutosh, for steering us back there. Go ahead, Ritvik, 30 seconds.
As you said that parents know what they're doing and they want our best. But sir, I accept to that point, but what about the children who are not interested? Like the NEET examination that took place this year in 2021, 13 lakh students had appeared and 61,000 only could crack the exam. That because they were not interested. There are many who used to pay lakhs, 3 lakhs, 4 lakhs for their coaching centers. They should spend so much money, but that was of no use. They couldn't crack the exam because there has to be a mindset. They need to feel that, yes, I want to do this. I want to become an engineer. But if he doesn't feel, or if she doesn't feel that I don't want to become an engineer, and if she's forced into becoming an engineer, it's of no use. And moreover, many engineers who have done their graduation and all that stuff, they're jobless. Many of them are jobless.
I think that's a very interesting point you bring up. Of course, it's beyond the scope of this argument, but it's a very interesting point. I must also confess to you, Ritvik, that I unfortunately fall in that category, but for a very different reason. My parents never forced me to do anything. But after I finished my 12th, I also signed up. I don't even remember if that center is still around. I signed up for, we had, it was called TNPCEE, I think, Tamil Nadu Professional Courses, engineering or entrance exam, and I signed up for those classes. I didn't go for a single one of them. I went and wrote the exam. I didn't know a single answer, so I shaded A, B, C, D, E, D, C, B, A on my sheet, walked out in 15 minutes. And the only reason I did it was because all my friends were going, and I just thought, well, what am I doing sitting at home when everybody's like stuck in a class somewhere? But that's peer pressure, and that's a whole other argument. Does anybody want the last word?
I would like to say that I don't think most teenagers know what they want to do with their whole life when you're 15 or 16. And yes, success comes at a cost, but it's a cost you should pay when you know that this is something you want to be doing for the rest of your life. Not when it's something that everyone else is doing, not when you think it's what you should be doing, but something you do with your own choice. So I don't think we should sacrifice our childhood and our energy and our time for something we're not 100% sure we're going to be doing. And even if we're not 100% sure, we should be doing it out of our own volition, not because of what we expected to.
Actually, Ms. Neha said want to get to know the child. So I don't go to typical tuitions, but I do go to one French class I go, and we have the classes, like I take the classes on weekends itself, and I have pretty great bonding with my teacher by just going on weekends. And then I go for some other classes too, and it's just on weekends. So it is study related, and me and my teacher have pretty good bonding and connection. So I don't think that weekday and weekend that is anywhere related to the student-teacher bonding.
I think everybody spoke extremely well. Congratulations, you guys, across the board. I thought that was absolutely fabulous. Could I invite Mrs. Jyoti Swarup to say a few words to our debaters about how they did today and any tips that she has on public speaking for them?
Yeah, hi guys, congratulations. You all did extremely well. I used to be a school teacher. I hate to say used to be because once a teacher, always a teacher. I used to teach English for classes 11 and 12. So if I were a teacher, I guess you guys would have gone through me. Excellent. Very good arguments. I'm not going to make individual mentions. I think some of you did not make use of the time, and there were some of you had a few points and you kept hammering them. It was like working on your hobby horse. The winners, of course, I'll just share the results in a moment. Mr. Kannan is not here. He was the other judge, and we both have this to say: you guys conducted yourself very, very well. I haven't come across a more civil debate than this. I wish Danny could put this up on TV for everyone to know how to debate, right? So there's always saber rattling and fist thumping and screaming and shouting. All of you young ladies and gentlemen got across your points without any too much of emotion. You had the right amount of courage. And what we liked is that you all were thinking on your feet. Maybe you were looking at your devices. Maybe there was a little looking up your reference. It's fine, because every time I speak, I always have a piece of paper. As Danny said, I've been a speaker, a debater. Let me just quickly, before I announce the results, if I can take the opportunity and very quickly tell you what worked for me when I was a debater, I was a speaker, I was a judge of so many debates, and as you also heard, I conduct workshops. I think one of the most important things is do your homework. Do your homework, do your research, and you should own your thoughts. You should own your arguments. You should express what you really feel. It doesn't help that someone can give you points, yes, right? So that's when you're able to think on your feet, when you own your thoughts, when you believe this is it. So what I found very good, the way you guys worked, was you really weren't given a choice earlier. You didn't say, okay, I'm going to speak on this. So you were clear about your argument. The fact that you were just thrown in at the deep, the fact that you guys were just told just now, you're going to speak for or against, is really good. I think confidence is very important. You must make use of all the opportunity you get to speak, right? It could be at home. It could be putting forward your points at home. I don't know why this is an issue that children are forced to do things. I raised two daughters who are now in their 30s, and I couldn't get them to do anything, and I still can't get them to do anything, right? So don't put blame on your parents. Don't say our parents want us to do this and our parents want us to do that. Parents only suggest, and I guess I agree with Ritik that there are children who are forced, right? So think on your feet, be confident, take any opportunity to speak. Those, of course, we are not in physical school now, but I never passed up an opportunity to go onto the stage and make an announcement. When I was in school, who wants to speak, Miss Can I? Who wants to recite, Miss Can I? I was that enthusiastic cutlet who put up a hand for every opportunity to speak, right? So never pass up that. There are people there are even teachers who are afraid to go onto the stage and speak, right? You must have seen in school how some teachers are afraid to speak. Speaking goes ABC, accuracy, brevity, clarity. I call them the ABC of speaking. Be accurate, have your facts, be clear about your thoughts, be brief. You can't be so brief. Some of you, I don't want to mention a couple, you're just 6 of you. You have to utilize your full time. A couple of you did not utilize your full 4 minutes or your 2 minutes in rebuttal, which gives me an indication that maybe you don't have enough to speak. Right? So be very careful about, and you must be a listener. And you're all good listeners. You must think on your feet. You must be listening to others. You listen to understand what someone says. You don't listen to answer. You get what I mean? We're always in a hurry to listen because I want to answer. Okay, in a rebuttal, you cannot do that. You cannot be in a hurry to want to give an answer because you're listening to give an answer. You have to listen to understand. I think that's the crux of speaking, that you listen to understand, you listen to find out what are you saying, where are you coming from, try to accept what is good in that person or what that person is saying, and then say, yes, I do agree with you here, but, right? Okay. It's good to take notes while you are speaking. Research is very important. What else do I have? I guess you guys there's nothing much for me to say apart from these little things, because you've got it all covered. You've got it all covered. The only thing I'd say is if you're summarizing, enough points to summarize, right? So just don't say, so I'm ending with 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3 is almost just one. So you must have a bandwidth of arguments. You must have a host of ideas. You must be able to think these through. It is tough that the way you guys went on, that you were just told on the spot. This is almost like I have a vague idea, but you're pushed in and said, is there any of you who wanted to speak for or against, but you had to speak the opposite for the opposite motion? Can I see your hands up? Did anyone feel, oh my God, I wish I spoke against or I spoke for? No, good. So you were prepared for both. You were prepared for both. Right. Okay. So with those very few words, you were 6 of you. I would really like to give all of you, this is what Kannan had to rush out now. And all that I spoke now was what Kannan and I said that I would convey to you. We thought the finest point, the best speaker, if that what it is, was Neha.
Congratulations, Neha. You win yourself a 1,000 rupee gift voucher from Link. I hope you use those pens to good effect.
Neha, can we split that amount? Right, I'll tell you why we thought Neha was the best speaker, because she had a range of arguments. She had a variety of ideas. And she also had her inimitable way she spoke. She had a little bit of humor. She had a very conversational style, right? So there's a lot of things that goes into Neha. But Neha came through as a very mature, well-balanced girl. Of course, she had body language is very important, but don't go about punching the air, etc. So she was quite contained. She seems to be a young lady, but more than her presentation, her clarity, her language, we took all this into consideration. Rebuttal, counter-strike. We thought Manya came through very well in the counter-strike.
Thank you.
So congratulations, Manya. Manya was very good at the counter-strike. I could see her gears working. She was thinking on her feet. She was frowning. She was, no, I may not be, the advantage of looking at you, catching you people on the camera. So we thought that Manya was very good. She took up all her time for rebuttal. She was very clear about what she was picking and why she was asking this question. And she came back again on the rebuttal, and we thought she came through very well. By the way, all these 3 decisions, we were unanimous, Kannan and I. And we were really wondering, there were 4 of you, everyone spoke well. And I said, what about this boy? And what about that girl? And what about this one? The third one is the lighter side. I mean, you're going to kill me if I'm going to leave all the others out of the prize. But we thought the lighter side, that award should go to Gayatri, just for the fact that, that very catchy phrase about the product. She had her humor on and off. She came up with these catchy phrases, and she had nerd and...
That's something that we've been hearing all week long as we go through these debates. Thank you very much, Mrs. Swarup. And guys, remember, when this debate airs, everybody's in the running to win this. So remember, get those voting lines up and running. All the best. Remember, there's never a winner or a loser. There's only a good debater, and debating is a way of life. You will find out as you guys grow up that life is a series of endless debates. You win some, you lose some, and well, you laugh at some. All right. All the best. Take care, you guys. Thank you, Mrs. Swarup. Thank you, Mr. Venu. He's not here with us, but we've had a great time. This is the New Indian Express's Let's Debate, and I wanted to tell Mrs. Swarup, we're trying to put dignity back in debating, and so yes, it probably is the most civil debate that you'll see for a while at least. So thank you very much for being with us, everybody. Take care and stay safe. Remember, you can vote for your favorite debater right here at www.edexlive.com/debate. Remember, every vote counts. Our voting lines are open for 48 hours, so get voting right now. This debate was brought to you by the Hindustan Institute of Technology and Sciences and MEIL. Every kid has a great story to tell. Have one? Well, we're listening. Send your best story to the New Indian Express's Bookworm Junior Summer Stories Contest, and you could just end up becoming an author over the summer. What are you waiting for? Get writing.